right, we'll go ahead and get started. How's everybody doing today? Good. All right. So today we're going to be talking about feedback during distance learning. Before we get started, a few nuts and bolts. I know we don't have a chat feature. If you have questions, just shoot me an email that you would put in the chat. Kim Pierre will be peeking her head in here in a couple minutes because she will be taking our attendance and she'll explain how pay works for online classes. So to get us kicked off, what do you guys want to learn today? Anybody?
Maybe a quicker way to give feedback. Like what's quicker, like giving feedback, returning each document, or giving feedback and returning all your documents, or you know, um,
Do
those
you
kinds
mean
of
with
things.
Google Classroom?
Right.
Okay. A few more people. All right. Anything else?
I guess other ways of giving feedback rather than typing comments galore.
Okay.
Well, I think going with that, what is too much versus what's too little in terms of what the kids would receive.
Okay. Awesome. Good news is we're going to talk about all of that today. All right. So I sent you guys an email. I found a really short article. It's about a 5-minute read. It's called How to Do Formative Assessment During Distance Learning. But I sent you guys the presentation for today. So it actually came through your account on it should say from like from the learning plan. So if you guys don't mind opening that. And I will pull it up here on my screen. Anybody not get that email? All right, so take about 5 minutes to read this article, just thinking about a few things that you would like to share with the group or a few things that you picked up from the article. For those of you who are just joining us, I sent you guys an email earlier. We're just starting things out. We are in the email is the presentation. So if you want to open that up, there's an article on slide 3. It's called How to Do Formative Assessment During Distance Learning. Let me know if you did not get it. Take about 2 more minutes to finish reading. All right. So, what do you think? What were a few things that you took away from that article?
One thing I really noticed was picking two to four tools and sticking with them. I've talked to a lot of parents that are overwhelmed with the variety of tools, so I've tried to pare it down to one or two that I use, and they really seem appreciative of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. In the article, there's a whole list of formative assessment tools, but I've kind of narrowed it down for the different purposes of feedback that, and we'll talk about that today. What else?
Into the section where they talked about the primary students wanting to see their teachers' faces. And I used Flipgrid last week. I teach second grade, and it was just really nice to see their faces, and they loved seeing mine. And I felt like they were utilizing the feedback a lot more because it was coming from my actual voice rather than just reading a typed message.
Yeah, for sure. We're such creatures of habit, especially students, whether they're pre-K kiddos or 12th grade kiddos. Um, and we really desire that face-to-face connection. So if we can't have it, together in a room, trying to make those opportunities available for students is important. Anything else?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I like the reflection videos. So just thinking about like wrapping up the week and having that conversation that they can send to you, and then you can send back and have more of that personalized conversation with the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to share a couple tools today that will help with that as well.
I was just going to say, we've had a lot of talk about, we make videos because of our kids being able to be on at all different times and missing Zoom sessions. But I like the idea of sending a personal video. And then that alleviates the getting on one-to-one, that kind of uncomfortableness and the questionableness of being one-on-one with a student, but still allows you to just speak to one student. I thought that was something we hadn't really talked about with my teachers.
Right. So I think one of the biggest takeaways from this is that we have to have a purpose for feedback. So of course, feedback is a part of formative assessment, and most of you have taken formative assessment training in some capacity. But understanding exactly what we're looking for to provide students is important. I felt like the first couple of weeks we were just kind of in survival mode as teachers, and we were just putting things out there and saying, here's your work, let's get it all collected. And, of course that has to happen. But now I feel like we're in a routine that we can, share the information with our students, and we can really be purposeful with the feedback that we give them. So coming with that, also, we'd have to talk about selecting the right tools to use for that. There are a gazillion digital feedback tools out there. What I've done today is I've kind of narrowed the list to what are things that are approved by WCPS. Many teachers just go out and look for tools to use, but they don't look at the safety and the security because you don't think about that. I know when I was a classroom teacher, I thought about safety, and I thought, oh, well, it's an educational tool, must be safe. The applications that I'm recommending today are part of our digital capacities, and they are safe and recommended for our students, so you don't have to worry about that. but also to kind of then start to use those tools over and over, like we talked about a little bit earlier, so that we're not using one tool today, the next day we're using another tool, 3 days later we're using something different, but keeping that consistency so that parents and students do have the opportunity to get used to what you're trying to use and how to use it. So I'm going to share just a few things, just to kind of how I roll with presentations. I'm not the expert on any of this, so I want you guys to feel free to jump in at any time. If you have something to share with someone, please share away. I'm going to touch basically on Google Classroom and some applications that probably all of you have used or heard of. So if you know something that would be better for the group, please feel free to jump in and share. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is picking the type of feedback that we give to our students. I had a teacher 2-3 weeks ago that was talking about some really great ways that feedback was working for her in her class. And ironically, she is a primary teacher. So all of her students were sent home packets. The expectation for her and her students was not to live in a digital world, but instead that they were to complete the packets. But actually what happened was that she contacted the parents and students of the majority of her students and said, you know, I really want to meet in small groups with your kids a couple times a week. Are you available? Whether it be like by a phone or, I don't know, have somebody else let in here. Whether it be by the phone or whether it be by Zoom, I just wouldn't want to get in contact. So that's what she did. And what she ended up doing was scheduling small group meeting time. So instead of having a Zoom class like 2 times a week, she sent out on Monday like a pre-assessment or, you know, whenever. And then she grouped her students based on those learning needs, based on the feedback she was going to give. So she picked an area that she wanted to focus on. So let's just say it was grammar and punctuation. So she knew for the week she really wanted to focus on that. So what she did was she scheduled her meeting times around that. So on Monday, group A would meet. On Tuesday, group B would meet. On Wednesday, group C would meet. And then they would have a follow-up meeting. So each kid saw her 2 times a week. The first one was for that initial instruction. And then the second one was to provide feedback, direct feedback on the work that they had done in the meantime. So she felt that that really worked well for her. And basing it on the learning needs. So she had groups just like we do in our classrooms, like that small group instruction, guided instruction. She did that based on the feedback she got. She also used student examples of work and provided steps for the future meetings. So she, you know, gave them exactly what they were going to be doing at that following meeting. So there were expectations. Now, one thing, the use of the breakout rooms, this wasn't her idea, but we have, I don't know if we have any Eastern Elementary folks on here, but a fifth grade team at Eastern Elementary uses their breakout rooms in a really great way. So they flex group throughout the school year. And on a daily basis, you know, kids go to one teacher for math, another teacher for reading, so on and so on. So they use it the same way. So they meet every day. And I'm not saying that's the expectation, but for them, that's what works. And they have one person who stays in the main meeting area and then kind of divvies out the students. So sends a group of students to one teacher for English, for ELA, sends another group of students to math to another teacher. And then the other teachers just kind of hang out in the moderator area to move kids where they need to go, but also to provide support to those other teachers. So they are using the breakout rooms just as they were like in a face-to-face classroom. And they really like that. They said it works well because it's small group sizes, but it also helps them to provide the necessary feedback. So we're going to dive into Google Classroom. If you are a Google Classroom expert, this is probably not going to be new to you at all. You may pick up something that you can use, but for Google Classroom, if you know more about this, feel free to chime in or if you've used it. So Google Classroom, just to kind of give you some idea, we started out when distance learning began. We started out with about 1,500 classrooms in Washington County. We now have over 5,500. So we have quite a huge jump in the use of Google Classroom, which is great. But a few things I want to show you about how to provide feedback on Google Classroom is how to use it. So this is a teacher page, a fake teacher page. I went and assigned the classwork to my students. So now I have to find their information. So I always click on people. There's more than one way to do this. You can go through the grades, you can click people. There's a whole bunch of different ways, but I feel like the easiest way is to click on people. And you can find your students. So my poor child, he gets all of the guinea pig stuff. So this is nothing that he's actually done, but I put him in all my classes because he can be my guinea pig. So as you can see, I have 2 assignments here. I'm going to click on the assignment that I want to provide feedback for. And when I do click on it, it opens like a Word document because this document is in Word. So if you have a Google Slides presentation that you assigned, it will open in Google Slides. If you have Excel, or I'm sorry, Sheets, it'll open in Excel. So the first thing up here is the student's name. If I click on this, it will list all of the students, and I can organize it by the status. So it would be anybody who's turned in their work, and then people who are not assigned, and then people who are missing work. I can also organize it by first name, last name, however you want. These little arrows here allow you to move from student document to student document. So if I'm providing feedback on an entire classwork of documents, I can just use these arrows and to move to the next student. Oh, gotta let somebody in. It's Kim, so she's probably gonna take attendance here. Hi, Kim. Should make it in. You there, Kim?
I am. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm going to sneak in and take attendance.
All right, sounds good. So when we're on this page, we kind of have 2 features here. If you notice on the right-hand side, there's something that looks like a little lines, and if you click on it, it's a grading tab. That, as you can see, when you click on here, the files, grading, private comments, we'll talk about that here in a minute. But then below it is a comment bank. So we'll talk about that too. So when I'm grading students and I want to provide them feedback, there's a couple ways that I can do it. The first thing is that I can actually comment directly on the document. So if I have this document and I want to make a statement or add a comment about this particular question, what is your favorite color? I highlight it and then I click add a comment. And it will be added to this document. Now, if you have students, more than one student on this document, everybody who is on this document will be able to see it. Please know that on a student iPad, it looks different. So when students pull up their documents, they won't have all of these listed, these comments listed, but instead they'll like words will be highlighted like this, and they'll have to double click on it to actually see the comment. Not only can I add comments, I can add links. So if I click a link here and I want to send them to a website, I can insert a website. I can insert a YouTube video. So perhaps my comment is, find a video and insert it, or watch this video and give details. If you also notice when I did that, things pop up below here. These are called comments, frequently used comments. So you can use, I'm going to show you how to add them, but it picks up on words or phrases. Sorry about that. So if I type in great, that's something that I say a lot. So I can type nice, great work, nice details, and that will pop in there too. As a teacher, I can insert images. So what I actually have to do is come up here and just hit insert image. And if I come over, I can upload something from my desktop, or I can search directly in Google. And I could insert the image. So it would insert it, and then I can resize it if I would like. So there are a lot of things that you can do as far as inserting comments. If I want to get rid of a comment, I just exit out. If I'm having a conversation with the student, so when the student sees this, they can click on the comment and then they can offer a reply. So the student could say, my favorite color is blue. I changed my mind. I can mark this resolved and it will go away. So know that these comments that you put directly on the sheet are for anybody who is on the document. Now, since you're just grading Trace on this, you're not grading everybody who's on the document. If I click over here on Files, the Grading tab, you'll notice that this is the document I'm grading, and I'm able to actually enter a score for the student if I want. Because we are elementary teachers, we do grade on a 4-point scale, so I wouldn't use percentages, I wouldn't use points as far as more than 4 points, just because that is confusing to students. But if you wanted to change the points total, you could. And so then there's these private comments. So private comments will only go to the student. So the student, Traceling, will only see these private comments. So nobody else in this document will be able to see it. So when I add this, I'm gonna log in here to his Google Classroom so that you can see what it looks like on a student end. And when he goes to his classwork and clicks on favorite things, he clicks view assignment, all of those private comments will be listed here. So he is able to see them, and only he is able to see them. I'm gonna stop for any questions. Do you guys have any questions so far?
I have one, Miss Ling.
Yes.
Is Danielle Gardenauer here? Is anyone, maybe she's in under a different name? Okay, I'm gonna take that as a no.
All right.
Katie, I have a quick question.
Yes.
This is Sharon Lewis over at Rockland. On the private comments, I have a few students that have their private comments turned off. How is that possible?
I don't know, because they shouldn't be able to change their settings.
Okay.
You can go to this right here on the left-hand side. And if you scroll to the bottom, now the student would have to do this. They would have to go to where it says under notifications, private comments on work. They'll have to just turn it on.
Okay, so that's on the student's end in the settings. Okay, thank you.
Now, we did have some issues where students didn't have this. So if you have particular students who don't have the ability to change this, let me know and I can reach out to our IT team to see you know, what's going on.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right, so the next feature is the comment bank, and that's that feature where when I clicked a comment here, they popped up in the bottom. And it's an easy way of just, instead of typing something over and over and over again, it just populates it. So to create a new comment for the bank, I just click add to bank. And again, I can type a comment. I can insert a URL. So if you want kids to go to a different website, instead of copying and pasting it, 29 times, you can do that. You can insert videos for students to watch. And when you're ready to use it, two ways that you can do it. You can just type the first couple letters, or you can click on the 3 dots to the right and hit copy to clipboard, and then just go in the box and paste it. So I think that's a really nice feature. And then when I'm finished with everything, so as you can see, I've provided the comments, I've scored it, I've looked at everything that I want to look at, I can return it to students. And when I return it to students, that's telling them that I've looked at it, I've reviewed it, and I have things for them to improve on. So some teachers will say, when I return it to you, please look at the comments and then turn it back into me. Others just return it with no expectation of having it being returned. So totally up to the student. Anybody have a question?
So when something's returned to the students, do they just get a notification of that, just like they would if an assignment was posted? Is that how that works?
Yeah, sometimes they will get a notification that it was returned, work was returned to them. If you have them go and check their settings, making sure that all of this is turned on. When I go to Trace's account, he doesn't get a notification that anything has been returned to him. But when I just click on classwork, and if I click view your work, it'll give a score here. Or they have the filter where they can return with a grade. And that's where it's been returned. Go back. So that's kind of how students know when something's been returned. Any other questions?
You don't have to return for them to see the private comments. They can see them if they go back, but if you return it, then they know that you've.
Correct. You can't offer a grade without returning it.
Okay.
So if you're if you want to score the work and give them a grade, you have to actually return it. But private comments, you don't have to return it at all. You can just type the private comment and then it will come back to them.
So every time they have a private comment put down and then you return the assignment, when they see that you've returned it, they click on it, the private comment is still visible for them, right?
Correct. So when I click on this and click view assignment, and then if I was a student, I'd click on my work here. You would see all of the comments listed here.
For some reason, I have students, and it's not the majority, but I have some that when I give them written feedback and then return the assignment, then they resubmit it for some reason.
Yeah, some kids feel the need that they have to. That's just something that I would communicate with them and let them know, if I want you to resubmit it, and as you can see, I can resubmit it here. If I want you to resubmit it, then I'll let you know. Any other questions? All right, so let's move on. So one of the other features, sometimes when we are meeting with kids, we forget about some of these really great tools that we can use to collect information on the spot. because when we're face to face in a classroom, we do this naturally without even thinking about it. So we walk around our classroom and we say, hey, I need to collect this information, this information, this information, whether it's a checklist or it's in our head. But virtually is a little different. So Kahoot, Quizlet, and Quizzes are all applications that are located in self-service that students have access to. And what they can do is, as a teacher, let me X out of here. Kahoot, if anybody has ever used it, is a really fun game that you can assign to students to play basically quizzes. You can insert videos for them to watch. You can insert PDF files for them to read and respond to. They can be sent as quizzes for students to work individually on or as a group work. So we have some teachers who use this during their Zoom meeting, and they'll just ask students to hold up a color, like a piece of paper, and or write the color on there so that they can actually have on the spot feedback. So some teachers say, no, I want to assign this to them and then I want to come back to it. So that is also available, because then they get a report. Log in here. I thought I was logged in. Sorry about that. So if I click on reports here, it will show you all of the different Kahoots that I've ever created. I can download it, and that will download you every bit of information in an Excel document, or I can look at it just like kind of like a quick glance, and it will show me how people performed. And it will also show me the people that haven't finished or who may need help. So Kahoot's a great tool to use. Kids love it, has great music. I know as adults, we even like it. So the next tool that you can use is called Quizlet. And basically it's flashcards, kind of like matching games where you can build different things for students to use. So this was about animals. So within this card, I could insert information for students to look at. They can play games with it. You can give them a test on it, so that, a student, you can say, what is this location? And then the students can take the quiz and it provides you feedback information. And then the last one that I'm going to share with you is very similar to Kahoot. It's called Quizzes, and it is another engaging game. It's built just like Kahoot. It's color-coded. It has a leadership board to it. As you can see there on the screen, it has different questions, and it has a really good reporting feature as well. So what I've done is I've put links in there to each of these so that you can check them out. Some of them we do have tutorials on, modules on. Has anybody used any of those three in their classroom? Okay. All right, so that's just a way to collect, again, figuring out what your purpose is. If you go into a session and you say, I want to check for understanding. I want a quick check. These are great tools to use instead of using, a Google Doc, asking questions on a Google Doc or a Google form. These are just quick check-in tools that are engaging to kids and provide a lot of information. So the next bit of information is probably my absolute favorite formative assessment tool, which is Flipgrid. And I know some of you have used Flipgrid. I put a link in here with our beginners Flipgrid instructions to our modules that you can use. But Flipgrid is great in so many ways because it can be used for just a quick check-in if you want, or it can be more lengthy. So if you're not using Google Classroom, or you or maybe you want to try something different. Kids love making videos. Teachers, not so much, but kids love making these videos because they love seeing themselves. Plus they can put like emojis and all kinds of fun stuff on it. So you start out with a grid, which if you think about it, is kind of like your classroom. So if I'm going to start here with standards-based grading, which was a summer workshop I taught a couple years in a row. And then you add topics. So then your topics would be like ELA, math, science, social studies. So let's just pick this one. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to, like for this one, I wanted students to watch a video. So I had them watch the video and then I had them reflect. And once those people put their answers here, trying to find somebody who I can pick on who won't care. Ashley won't care, so I'll pick on her. What they do is they respond, and it's hidden from all of the other students except for the teacher. So the teacher can see it. But what I really like about it is I think with the that you can see their face, you can see their response. But what's the best part of this is I can provide them instant feedback. So I can provide them video feedback, so of myself giving them a response, or I can type comments if I don't want to respond to them directly through a video. I can also grade them. One other really nice feature is if I think her video would benefit other students in the class, I can share it with the rest of the students in the class. So I can say, take a minute to watch Ashley's video and respond with one thing that you learned. So Flipgrid is an amazing tool that I would encourage you to check out. So this would be, if you, a little bit more than a quick check-in, but something that allows students to explain their thinking and their learning. Anybody use Flipgrid, that they have a story that they want to share, or they just really like it?
I use Flipgrid for fluency checks, even while they're home, that they just pick a book and they just read for a few minutes, because you can change the timer to, I think it's a minute or up to, I don't know if it's 5 or 10, but you can give them time to read a book out loud and then you can listen for their fluency rate.
Yep. Lots of teachers use that for that purpose, yeah. All right, the next tool I'm going to share with you is Screencastify. I know many of you are using Screencastify to record your lessons, but this is a way that you can actually use Screencastify to provide feedback. Now this teacher is doing it just within Google Docs. It can be anything digital. So if it's kids, you know, respond on a Google slide or a Word document, or just a website that you sent them to and you want them to talk you around the website for something, you can do that. So I'm going to show you this quick video.
All right.
Can you hear her voice? Okay.
Students are through the remediation process and they've actually turned in assignments that I can now take another look at and provide even more feedback for my students to get better before they turn in the whole argumentative essay. And I'm really excited to be able to do that through video, because I found that students are really able to tackle feedback and get better when they can hear my voice instead of just reading static comments. So I've opened up a Google document that includes my student's introduction, which was their assignment. And I'm going to use Screencastify as well as some words to be able to respond back to what the student is thinking. So I'm going to start a tab recording with Screencastify. Include my microphone, and this time, since their paper is the true star, I'm going to turn off my embedded webcam and press record. Thanks so much for turning in this paper. It's really, really awesome. And I think that there are a few ways that we can improve it before we move on to the body paragraphs. So I'm creating this video so that you see exactly what I'm thinking as I'm going through your paper. So your first sentence says, over the last decade, a lot of websites have started. Awesome. A couple places where I think that we can get a little bit better. First, on a lot, remember that a lot is spelled as two different words. So A-L-O-T. So please go back and go ahead and correct that. The other thing is it looks like you're talking about websites here, but remember that our focus should actually be not just websites, but actually social networks. So remember, it's about social networks, not any website.
So as you can see, I'm not going to show you the whole video. It's in this presentation if you want to go back and watch it. It's about a 5-minute video. But it's just another way of explaining your thinking so that the student gets that kind of personal connection. Screencastify has a 5-minute limit. I wouldn't want to give feedback to students longer than 5 minutes anyway. There's a research statistic that says anything after 6 minutes, people stop listening to. So we try to keep our videos between 5 and 8 minutes, depending on what we're talking about. Has anybody used Screencastify in that manner? Okay. Has anybody used Screencastify for other reasons?
Katie, what does the student see on the document when you use Screencastify?
They see exactly what your screen looks like.
So
So
they see the big triangle to know that they need to play a recording?
yeah, so you would send them a link, and it would be like it would be a Screencastify link, but it would be like a YouTube. So you would paste the link. When you're done recording with Screencastify, you get you can save it as a Google, like into your Drive, or you can save it as an MP4 file, which would upload as a video. And Screencastify will walk you through all of that. I put the link here for Screencastify. They actually have like a course, and it's designed like ours, so you don't have to take the whole course. You can just click to the different videos to see what you want. So if you just want to know how to create a video, you can just click on that video. But they're really good. So, great question. So again, we have a couple different purposes for feedback. The first one, Google Classroom, is you're providing detailed feedback to the student, where you're almost having that conversation where you're engaging. You have Kahoot, Quizlet, and quizzes for that quick, engaging feedback that helps you to drive instruction. And then Flipgrid and Screencastify, kind of the same feedback as the Google Classroom, want to dive a little bit deeper into their thinking and get to know where they are in their learning process. So ideally, we want to collect data over time. So just as we do in our classroom, it's not a one and done thing. We have to collect data to guide our instruction and make changes. So, when you're collecting this data, give students those guidelines and checkpoints. Say to them, this week I'm going to be looking for grammar and punctuation. So everything we talk about is going to be talking about that and looking at your work. It's encouraged to schedule Zoom meetings with small groups of students that have that same ability level, and help use forums or organizers. I know my own children, their teachers have given weeks at a glance, which are really nice for my child and myself. This is an organizer that helps to organize the learning, but it gives the subject and it gives the success criteria there, what the assignment activities are going to be, and then what they have to turn in. Some people have even added a feedback column over here, so they can add to that. Just gives lots of information, helps to organize that feedback all in one location. Have students submit their reflections on their work. Like I said, kids pre-K to grade 12 love recording themselves. Use Flipgrid, Seesaw, just a basic camera tool. If parents are really terrible at technology, they know how to use their phones. So have them use the camera to record the students' thinking and just send it in an email. Post the recordings to the same place over and over again. So if you're using Flipgrid, have them post things there. If you're using Google Classroom, have them continue to post there. Don't jump back and forth between different platforms or change things up a lot, because it confuses mostly the parents, honestly, not necessarily the students, but the younger kids tend to enjoy the platform. If you haven't used Seesaw, Seesaw, my pre-Ker uses, very easy. It's like a journalish type thing. It is not free. There is a free version, but it doesn't come with all the bells and whistles. So just be aware of that. Flipgrid's free. So is Google Classroom. So those are the two that we highly recommend that you use. One of the pieces of feedback that we really kind of overlook a lot in the distance learning is social emotional learning. In the classroom, we're naturals at this. I know when I taught, every morning I'd spend a couple of minutes with each student just saying, hey, how's the day? How was your night last night? What'd you do? So and so on. If a kid came in and wasn't feeling good or had a terrible night last night, I knew instantly. I also knew when they were struggling with something, or if something was too easy with the body language and looking at them. With distance learning, it's not that easy because you just get a clip of them a couple times a week, if that. So, I always encourage people to start their meetings with, hey, how's it going? Tell me something exciting that you did. What's one thing that you want to tell me? Is there anything you want to show me? And then move into the conversation of what do you really like about what we've talked about or we've learned about, that type of thing. So that's kind of an important piece to feedback as well, because that might lend you to understand better if something is working for students or if they're learning something or if they're not. So how to provide feedback with students with packets. Try to make contact with the parents and the students. There are some parents who just want that paper packet. They don't want to talk to you on the phone. They don't want to talk to you in a Zoom meeting. They just want to complete the packet. You know what? There's nothing you can do to change that. Other than just continuing to provide opportunities for them, reaching out to them and saying, I know that you're happy with the packet, but I just want to let you know that there is this opportunity for a Zoom meeting or a conference call. I'd really love to talk with Johnny. Haven't seen him in a couple weeks, even if it's over the phone, that might help build that relationship. Set up weekly meetings based on parents' needs and students' needs. Discuss learning and not tasks. Our parents are in a world of what do I have to complete? Because that's the world they lived in and they live in. Make sure you turn in this assignment. Make sure you complete this. And start changing the thinking around, well, what does my child need to learn? What do they need to know? Instead of what's my kid's grades and what do they have to turn things in? Not that grades aren't important. I'm not saying that. But learning is more important. And also discuss that SEL with families. Maybe people are going through a lot right now. Maybe things are happening in their home that they just can't get to things. So have that conversation with them as well. So using the data that you collect, as always, is no different than what you are in the classroom. You're going to collect the feedback that you can. The type of feedback looks a little bit different, and how much of that feedback you actually get looks different. But use it to plan ahead and adjust your instruction to however you need. There's no right or wrong way to do this. So it is your classroom, and ultimately it's your kiddos that you're providing instruction to. So you make those decisions based on what you need. So is there any questions? All right. Have a couple minutes left. If you click on two ways you can do this. We like feedback for ourselves to improve this however you see fit. So three ways you can do it actually. You can scan this with your phone. It's a quick survey. If you click on it, it takes you directly to the link, which is the bit.ly below. So Kim, are you still on?
I am. I was going to talk quickly about pay if that's okay.
Yes, perfect.
All right. So Joni Burkhart has sent each of you an email. In the email, it gives directions on how to access what's called a VPN, which is just a secure way of getting to the school board to sign off on your payroll. So if you would, in the next 48 hours, click on the link for the VPN and get logged into that, and then go into PayHub and sign for your pay. Heads up, your signature will probably look like your doctor's signature because you will be using your trackpad in order to sign your name. So as long as it looks, like something, you shall get paid. So again, that's in an email from Joni Burkhart. I think she has already sent it out to everyone. So if you could take care of that either now or within the next 48 hours, we would really appreciate it.
And just know, we really appreciate the time and effort that you put in. You guys have probably been on Zooms all day long, so to spend an extra hour of your day with us, really, we do appreciate it. At any time you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We'll be happy to help you. We can do private Zooms, whatever you want to meet your needs. So thank you guys so very much. I will send out a follow-up email with this presentation in it, as well as the feedback form. But I hope you guys have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Katie.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you for providing this.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Welcome.